Hello and welcome to Java Collections. My name is Praveen. In this Java collection discussions, we have so far discussed iterator. After iterator, the next topic is listIterator. Okay, so with listIterator, if you see, we can iterate all the elements of my list either in forward direction or in vector directions. Starting with the difference between iterator and listIterator, as the name says, iterator is generic. It can be used with set or it can be used with list. Going with the list iterator can be used only with list interfaces or all the classes which is implementing list interfaces. With list interfaces, we can access the next element by calling nest, just same as like iterator. But with list iterator, we get an additional method which called previous. By this, we can go backward to the previous elements. We can see which element is coming to be the next, which is the previous element. Okay, so here's the difference between iterator and listIterator. Iterator is used for traversing list and set both. It is not specific to one collection type, it can be used with both the collection types. We can use listIterator to traverse list only. It is specific to list interfaces, all the classes which is implementing list interface. We cannot traverse set using listIterator as the name is very specific to be specific to list. With iterator, we can traverse only in forward directions. Using iterator, we can traverse list in either of the directions. What are the issues with iterator is we cannot the problem with iterator is if you see the interview questions is what is the difference between iterator and listIterator, and why with an iterator we cannot add an element, why we are traversing through a collections. With iterator, we don't get the indexes of my elements. We can obtain indexes using listIterator. So for my indexes is nothing but the location, exact location where I'm putting my next element. With listIterator, I get this index by and I can use the same method as next index or the previous index for this purpose. We cannot add element to a collections while we are traversing it using an iterator, as it will throw in concurrent modification exception. It will not allow to change the underlying data structures. It will not allow me to change the underlying set or the list interface. This is not the case with iterator. We'll come back, we'll revisit this, we can start writing some code and we'll just test it. You can start with any ID of your choice. I prefer IntelliJ. Here we can create a new class, Java list iterator demo. We'll start with a quick main here and then we define let's take it of integer type. We give it a name myArrayList and then we give it an ArrayList here. We can import list here. My import with listIterator, what I do is I'll add some elements to it, say 12. Okay, so this is my collections. This is my array list that we have. It is of integer type and we have around 5 elements to it. While going with my list as an instance, see if we click on dot and if we go with list, we got a method called listIterator, which is of listIterator in generic specific to of integer types. So when we take this method, we need to have a placeholder here. We make it a listIterator, make it specific to integer, and we'll make it a myListIterator here. By this reference, by the reference myListIterator, I can access my array list content using a listIterator method. See, this is specific to only list type. This cannot work with set. After this, while my listIterator has next, same like iterator, I can go back and I can print the element of my iterator dot next elements. This will give me the next integer value that I have in the collections. Okay, here I'm trying to print it. What I can do here is I can convert into string so that it will work. Next, with my listIterator, I can go with the has previous, whether it has the previous element or not. When I'm in the middle of iterating and the iteration is going on and in the middle of it and somewhere I want to look back what was the previous elements, I can print this element. We'll take my listIterator and this previous. This will give me the integer value, and here it is saying we need to convert it into string here. If we just run this program and see the output, okay, so here we have iterated the element one by one, 12, 123, 23, 34, 145, and the same again. Second important topic with listIterator is, since see, let's try and understand this topic. With listIterator, I'm getting the index value of my collections. Why I cannot, why using iterator I cannot add an element? I don't know the location of it. See, with my set, it could be any random fashions. I don't know the exact position of my next variable which is going to be inserted, so I cannot insert it. Now since I know the index elements, what I can do is I can take the listIterator reference and we can add a new value. We can make it specific like 55. Similarly, while iterating it previously, I can take the value and add a new element, make it 77. After this iterations, if we just print out, if we just print the complete list elements, first is we'll just print the list, and for every list, for each of the elements, we take a consumer like we can just print here the element value. Here in this time we need not to do this or this. We just have added a new element and we see whether this element is added or not. We'll run this program and check. Okay, see, my list of element is now 55. We have added the element 55 and 77. That means while iterating we can add an element. It will not work out with the iterator. Coming back to the presentation. Okay, so important difference between iterator and listIterator is their methods. With iterator I will get only 3 methods: has next, just to check whether it has a next element or not. We check this element just to make sure we are not at the end of the collections, or not at the end of the last element in my collections. When it has the element, we go for the next elements and we just pick that element. Even though I don't know the index, but still it gives me a feature that I can remove that element if it is of my requirement. With the iterator, it first is it give me a method to add an element of any specific type of that list is. Then the same as has next, and the big brother of it has previous. It will check the element for next element. It has previous will check for the previous elements. Next will return me the next element. Previous will return me the previous elements. Then we have got next index and previous index just to check their index values, and the remove functions. And we can set and change the values. These are the important methods of listIterator. This is the same code. We can rework through the code again. We created a list here. We added some elements, and while iterating, we just took a listIterator. We print the list, and with this we can move forward. We can check whether it has next or not. We can print that element, and then we can add a new element while iterating it. listIterator.add 10. Similarly, we go for has previous. We check the previous elements, and then while iterating, we can add a new element to it. Thank you. This is for listIterator. You can try the code, try the same. You will find the code below in my descriptions. Thank you.